Most people believe they're free, but they're not. They're just well managed. From childhood, we're taught to chase success. Go to school, get good grades, land a stable job, climb the ladder. It sounds like a formula for freedom. In reality, it's the blueprint of the rat race, a system built not to empower, but to contain. It dangles rewards just out of reach, convincing you that if you just work a little harder, sacrifice a little more, you'll finally make it. But what if the finish line was never meant to be crossed? This isn't just about long commutes, corporate cubicles, or mounting bills. It's about a deeper design, psychological, social, and economic, that keeps even the most intelligent, driven people running in place. So here's the real question. Why do so many smart, hard-working individuals spend their entire lives running and never get ahead? In this video, we'll break down the invisible mechanisms that keep people stuck and expose how the illusion of freedom is often the strongest cage of all. Did you choose your life? Or were you born into a system that chose for you? From the moment you're old enough to walk, the path is already laid out. Go to school, get good grades, find a decent job, take on debt, buy things you don't need, work for decades, and retire if you're lucky. This sequence isn't life. It's a blueprint, a pre-written script passed from one generation to the next, sold as freedom but built on obedience. It begins with school, not a temple of curiosity, but a factory of compliance. Bell schedules mirror shift changes. Desks arranged in rows resemble assembly lines. Children are rewarded not for questioning, but for following instructions. Creativity is boxed in by standardized testing. This isn't an accident. During the rise of industrial capitalism in the 19th and early 20th centuries, figures like Henry Ford revolutionized production, and society followed suit. Schools were redesigned to produce efficient, punctual, rule-abiding workers who could keep the factories running, not thinkers who might question why the machines exist at all. After school, the system slides you smoothly into the next compartment, the economy. You must earn to survive. Your basic needs, food, shelter, healthcare, are behind a paywall. You're told you're free to choose your path, but those choices come with conditions. Want to go to college? That'll be thousands in student debt. Want a home? Sign here for a 30-year mortgage. Even starting your own business often means taking on risk you may never be able to afford. Economic freedom becomes a leash, longer than some, shorter than others, but always there. Meanwhile, consumerism keeps the illusion alive. You're surrounded by endless options: clothes, gadgets, careers, lifestyles. You feel empowered because you can choose between an iPhone or a Galaxy, finance a Honda or a Hyundai, major in business or communications. But none of these decisions change the enclosure you're in. You're still playing within the boundaries set by others. It's a bit like giving a zoo animal a choice between two feeding stations. The animal may feel autonomous, but the cage remains. This is the perfect metaphor for modern life. A well-designed enclosure. You can move around, explore, make small choices. But escape, that's not part of the deal. The cage isn't made of bars. It's built from expectations, debt, culture, and economic necessity. It's invisible, but just as binding. You're free to roam, but never truly free. Historically, this system was engineered to serve industry and state. The workforce had to be orderly, predictable, and replaceable. The school-to-job pipeline was intentional, a system designed not to empower individuals, but to sustain productivity. It worked so well that generations later, most people can't imagine another way of living. The idea that there might be alternatives, cooperative economies, decentralized education, community-based living, sounds radical or utopian, even though they've existed in various forms throughout human history. We are not here by accident. We didn't vote for this script, but we're born into it, expected to perform without question. And the saddest part, most people live their whole lives inside this cage, never realizing it was built long before they were born. So ask yourself again, did you choose your life, or did the cage choose you? For decades, the dream has been simple. Work hard, save money, retire comfortably. But the hard math tells a darker truth. Most people are on an economic hamster wheel, running endlessly and getting nowhere. The numbers don't lie. For the average person, escaping the cycle is not just unlikely, it's mathematically near impossible. Median income versus cost of living. Start with the basics. The median household income in the US is around $75,000 as of 2024. That might sound decent until you break it down. Here's a simplified monthly budget. Housing, rent or mortgage, $2,000. Healthcare, insurance, out of pocket, $1,000. Childcare, if applicable, $1,200. Transportation, car payments, gas, insurance, $800. Groceries, $800. Utilities, and internet, $300. Debt payments, credit cards, loans, $500. Miscellaneous, clothing, entertainment, gifts, $400. That totals around $7,000 per month or $84,000 per year. And that's without savings, emergencies, or vacations. In other words, even a median income doesn't cover a median life. The illusion of saving your way out. Let's assume someone does manage to scrape together $1,000 per month to save or invest. That's $12,000 a year. Using the classic 4% rule, which assumes you can safely withdraw 4% of your retirement savings annually, you'd need at least $1 million saved to generate just $40,000 per year in retirement income. Barely livable, especially decades from now. How long would that take? Even with a decent 6% annual return, saving $1,000 per month at 6% annual growth takes 30 years to reach $1 million that assumes no job loss, no medical emergencies, no kids needing help, no financial shocks. Most people don't even come close. The average retirement savings for Americans aged 55 to 64 is under $90,000. Inflation, debt, and the moving goalposts. Inflation is a silent thief. At just 3% annual inflation, a low estimate, the value of your money halves roughly every 24 years. So that $1 million retirement goal? It's not $1 million in today's money. It's more like $2 million if you're planning 30 years out. Now add debt. 45% of Americans carry credit card debt, with interest rates often above 20%. Emergency expenses, a blown transmission, a root canal, a layoff, wipe out savings quickly. Over 50% of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing or selling something. Retirement myths. The 401k trap. Many believe the 401k will save them, but most plans have high fees, limited options, and rely on your own contributions. There's no pension, no guarantee, and market crashes can devastate your balance right before retirement. The 4% rule is based on historical averages, but in a world of rising living costs, longevity, and unstable markets, it's outdated and risky. Healthcare alone in retirement can cost over $300,000 per couple. The wage cost gap. Here's where the system truly reveals itself. Wages, adjusted for inflation, have barely risen since the 1970s. Meanwhile, housing costs have risen over 200%. Healthcare premiums have doubled or tripled in the last 2 decades. College tuition has skyrocketed by nearly 500%. This means workers are more productive, i.e., generate more value than ever, but they see none of the gains. that value is siphoned off into corporate profits and shareholder dividends, not worker pay. Built to extract. The conclusion is simple and brutal. The system wasn't built for you to escape. It was built to keep you running, just fast enough to survive, not enough to get free. Your time is converted into money. That money is immediately consumed by inflated costs of living. What little remains is eaten by debt, inflation, and emergencies. Retirement is pushed later and later, not because people want to work into their 70s, but because they have to. This is the economic hamster wheel. Most people don't fail to escape because they're lazy or undisciplined. They fail because the math is against them, and the wheel keeps spinning. The mind prison. Even when people know they're trapped, they stay because they've been trained to. From the earliest stages of life, society conditions us to tie our self-worth to productivity. We are praised for getting good grades, completing tasks, staying busy. Somewhere along the way, we internalize the idea that our value is measured by what we produce, not who we are. This idea takes root early and grows deep, shaping how we see ourselves and others. In this mental framework, to rest feels like failure, and to pause feels like falling behind. Busyness becomes a badge of honor. The hustle is glorified. We celebrate the grind, the all-nighters, the no-days-off mindset, not because they make us happy, but because they signal dedication. Success, we're told, comes only to those who outwork everyone else. And so, hustle culture thrives, cloaked in the language of ambition, but fueled by self-exploitation. We push ourselves past exhaustion, then shame ourselves for not doing more. At the heart of this conditioning lies a powerful cognitive distortion, the just world fallacy. It's the belief that the world is fair, that people get what they deserve. If someone fails, it must be because they didn't work hard enough. If someone succeeds, they must have earned every bit of it. This comforting illusion makes the system seem rational and just, even when it's anything but. This mindset serves the status quo perfectly. If failure is always the individual's fault, there's no need to question the system that sets people up to fail. Economic inequality, poor personal choices, crushing student debt, lack of discipline, low wages, not enough hustle. We stop looking at structural issues and start blaming ourselves or each other. Worse still, we begin to defend the very system that exploits us. We've been so thoroughly trained to equate hard work with morality that challenging the system feels like moral failure. Doubt becomes weakness. Rest feels like cheating. And any call for change, for slowing down, for questioning the rat race, is dismissed as laziness or entitlement. This psychological trap keeps us locked into the myth of the American dream. We're told that if we just work hard enough, we can climb the ladder. But in reality, social mobility in the US is lower than it has been in decades. Your zip code, more than your drive, your talent, or your dreams, predicts your future. And yet, we keep believing, if I just work harder, this is the mind prison. A system so effective, it convinces people to feel ashamed of rest, guilty for needing help, and proud of their own exploitation. It keeps people from asking why they feel so exhausted, why they're never enough, or why the finish line keeps moving. The system doesn't need chains when it has beliefs. The most powerful form of control isn't physical, it's psychological. It's making people internalize the rules of a rigged game and then blame themselves for losing. We're so deeply programmed that we defend the very system that drains us. Breaking free begins with seeing the bars. Only then can we ask the real question, who benefits from this prison, and how do we escape? Designed to break you, before you realize it. The rat race isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. From the moment you're old enough to understand status, you're being primed to chase it and to confuse exhaustion for achievement. Advertising manufactures desire. It's not enough to meet your needs. The system convinces you to need more. Every billboard, social feed, and targeted ad works to create dissatisfaction. You're never complete, not until you have the car, the house, the lifestyle. By the time you realize you didn't want any of it, you're already in too deep. Debt forces submission. Credit cards, student loans, car payments, all normalized. You're told debt is the key to opportunity, but really, it's the leash. You don't negotiate your time when you owe. You comply. You stay quiet at the job you hate. You accept being overworked because missing a paycheck isn't an inconvenience. It's a collapse. Social comparison creates anxiety. Every scroll through social media reinforces the sense that you're behind. Someone else is younger, richer, more successful. So you keep climbing, not because you know what you want, but because you're afraid of what it means if you stop. Fear of failure prevents exit. The deeper you go, the more you've invested. Quitting feels like wasting your degree, your title, your progress. You're terrified of letting people down, even if staying means letting yourself down. Then comes lifestyle creep. That raise you fought for? Gone. Replaced by a better apartment, a newer phone, a slightly more expensive life. You don't feel richer. You just feel like you're treading water in more expensive shoes. Raises don't free you. They tighten the noose. The more you make, the more you need to maintain. You upgrade everything except your freedom. Welcome to the golden handcuffs. You landed the high-paying job. You won. But now you can't leave. You've got a mortgage, kids in a good school, a partner who depends on your income, and bills stacked so high you can't see the ground anymore. You're trapped, not because you failed, but because you succeeded. Cut back, not just on spending, but on expectations. Reject the idea that more is always better. Downsize. Detach. Stop competing in a race that leads nowhere. Build autonomy. Pay off debt. Create buffers. Learn to live below your means, not just so you can survive, but so you can choose. Every dollar you don't spend is freedom stored. And perhaps most importantly, accept that opting out looks like failure to those still inside. You will be misunderstood, maybe even ridiculed, but you'll be free. And that's not something the system offers willingly. The rat race isn't the only track, but you have to stop running long enough to find the others.